Hello, good morning everybody. I'm going to be reviewing Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn. It is the first book in the trilogy. I've taken a couple of notes for you guys, but I will start off by saying that I thought overall the book was phenomenal. It's the first thing that I've read by Sanderson. I will definitely be reading more. I've already bought Alcatraz and the Librarian, I believe that's what it's called. I bought The Way of Kings. I bought the rest of the Mistborn trilogy. And what's the one I ordered on Amazon? I ordered Nightmare Painter on Amazon. That is how much I enjoyed this first book. As a matter of fact, for my next book review, I would be doing the second one, but I had already promised myself that I would read Age of Misrule, World's End by Mark Chadbourne. That's because I'm a Doctor Who Mega fan. I have heard that he was part of the writing. So, I picked that book up. And if I enjoy it, I'll be reading the rest of that trilogy as well. But, Mistborn, Brandon Sanderson, overall S tier. Phenomenal. I will start by talking about the opening. So, I will go two ways with the opening. If you're one of the people that reads the prologue, I think the opening is going to be a 10 out of 10. I think the prologue gives you so much depth and richness into one of the main characters. Kind of how society is, how the world is viewed. The both dynamics from the higher class to the lower class is both kind of shown within just the prologue, and you get a sense of just where and how powerful our main character is without any actual hints. It's incredible. And the first chapter is also incredible, but it's a little slower pace. It slows down just a little bit, which doesn't bother me at all. I think that is phenomenal. I thought the way that he did it was just absolutely incredible. But going from that good of pacing to slowing it down just a little bit right in the start, the prologue being a little bit better than chapter 1 is why I bumped the opening down to an 8. Literally just because I know some people do not read the prologue. So I almost feel like the prologue could have been chapter 1 and it would have done better in some people's eyes. But what do I know? This is just my opinion. So, opening I gave an overall 8. Like I said, the prologue was phenomenal. And the first chapter was also incredible. It introduces you within those two. It introduces you to your two main characters. Very well done, so that you're with them the whole entire story. Which, the female main character, Ven, one of my favorite main characters in fiction, period. She very much reminds me of a timid version of Mara Leona from Black Clover. And I think by the end of the trilogy, my hope is that she will be as confident and pursuing of her goals as a Mara Leona is, because I think that character type is just so well done. And Ven already just has so much richness and so much depth. It's hard to not just want to learn every single thing that you can about her character, because she is so well done, and there are so many different corners of her personality that you can kind of wrap yourself in just to figure out this corner of her personality versus this other side of her personality. And you definitely get that through the book. You definitely get the growth. The growth in this character is top tier. That being said, I'm going to go straight into pacing. I gave the pacing a 10. I don't know if everybody else will. I don't really communicate with a whole lot of other readers, I will be honest with you. I watch some YouTube videos of other people that review things here and there just to kind of get like a reference of what I might want to read or what other people that are like-minded as me kind of are reading. I gave the pacing a 10 because I love comic books, I love manga, and this was a novel that had the pacing of a Naruto. It did. It had the pacing of a Naruto minus the filler. If you cut all the filler out of Naruto and you just looked at the pacing from start to finish, that is how well paced Mistborn was. It made you not only want to turn each page because the way he flowed through the page, there was very rarely a chapter that ended that I was just like, oh my god, not only was that a great end of that scene, I am delighted to see what's going to happen in the next chapter. It was just, I will skip ahead just a little bit. I gave his writing a 6. I hear a lot of people say that they do not like the simplicity of his writing. My personal opinion is that his writing is perfectly fine for him. It does very well with his stories. It opens it up to where more people are going to be able to read and enjoy his art. I will go back to writing a little bit more whenever I get to there, but I think it plays into how good his pacing is. The fact that if you're not an adept reader and you're not looking for something super complicated, there's very rarely where he doesn't give you enough context to where you're not going to understand every once in a while if you run into a word that you do not know. Which also happens very rarely. If you go read like a Wheel of Time, the writing is a little bit more complicated than this. And that's not even complicated. So just to give you like a sense of complexity, I do not think the writing complexity is there, and I think that helps the pacing. So I don't give that a negative into the writing at all. I would almost give that a positive into the writing. With that being said, I'll jump straight into writing. For overall viewers and from what I've heard and different opinions, I gave it a 6. I personally think it's an 8. Like I said, I think it builds towards his strengths, and I think it makes it better for his art. The dialogue is very good. The narration is also very good. He does not have the most complex vocabulary, so there are times whenever he could have slotted in a different word to help the reader fully picture the scene a little bit. Man, see, like, even this stuff is hard for me to really say because I don't know how much I agree with it. Like, I do agree with it in the sense of, yes, if you really fine comb through everything and put the exact perfect word for the emotion and the setting and everything, sure, he could have been a little more choicey with his words. I honestly think it would have made the book worse. So, writing to me an 8. Overall, I will give the writing a 6 because I've seen what the overall people think about his writing. Even though they keep reading book after book and praising him, but they keep downing the writing. Like, they do the same thing to Stephen King. I don't understand it. Regardless, I digress. Okay. Characters. Perfection. 5 out of 5. 10 out of 10, 100 out of 100, whatever you want to say. Vin is one of my favorite characters of all time. Kelsier is... Kelsier is Bruce Wayne if Bruce Wayne was Batman. Like, if he didn't have to put on the costume, if he didn't have to change faces, if he didn't have to hide his identity, Kelsier is Bruce Wayne that is also Batman. And it's phenomenal. He's confident to the point of pushing arrogance at times, but he balances it so perfectly. And whenever you get through certain parts of the book and you realize kind of how he's been plotting things and how he's been using his arrogance and how he's been using his pain and the stress and depression from his history and just the calculations that this guy has made in order to get everything where it needs to be and in order to make sure that things go the way that he wants it to go, even without knowing what could be or what will be, is phenomenal. Yeah, Kelsier has got... He has to be an S tier character, just simply for how much you feel that you know this person by the end of it. And although there are times throughout the book where you're just like, man, what the fuck are you doing? There's not a time to where if he was your leader, you wouldn't follow. I will say that. And as with Vin just made me feel so much of myself as a kid. And like I said, I just felt so much of the growth that she had through this story. She's one of my favorite fantasy fiction period characters of all time. She is phenomenal. I'm not going to go into her as much as I did Kelsier because I think that it's a disservice to anybody that is willing to read the book. I want you to discover her yourself because she is so well done. Yep. Alright, I'm going to mix plot and plot holes together. My opinion is the plot brings down the plot holes a little bit, but overall I would have put them at an 8. I rated them together at a 7 because after having some conversations with my wife, she made some pretty good points. The plot is very well done. It is it's like a Lord of the Rings meets Ocean's 11 thrown into a comic book. It's phenomenal. My wife thought it was she didn't appreciate it as much. She thought it was a little bit overdone, that it was too similar to two different things. She understood that he took this kind of plot line and this kind of plot line and combined them to make one phenomenal plot line, which in my opinion is what made it a 9. I thought it was great, but that at the same time is what made it a 6 to her. There are a lot of plot holes if you are not planning on reading more than a standalone book. If you enjoy all 9 seasons of your TV series coming out before you watch that TV series, you're going to want to have all 3 books before you start this book. It is 100% a book that leads into the next book, which I was lied to about. I was told that as a standalone book, you would be very happy reading just this one and it being a standalone book. I do not agree with that opinion. I do not. I think there are some pretty big things that are pros and cons. If you're looking for a trilogy, major pros. Major pros. There are things that make you want to read the next book so badly because you need to know the answers. You don't even want to. You need to know the answers. On the flip side, those are the same things that can be very bad cons. If you were like, well, I understand it's a trilogy, but if I don't like this, I kind of want this to be a wrap-up. I think as your first book in a trilogy, if you don't have a giant fan base, you should kind of leave things in to make it open-ended for a second book, but also wrap it up enough to where those people that pick it up to try you out are going to be like, oh, that was a great story. I do think, that's why I give it a 7 regardless, because I do think people are going to think it's a great story regardless. But I think the plot holes are so in your face to make you want to read the next one. It will have the opposite effect if you don't want to read the next one. With that being said, I gave plot/plot holes a 7. Because I do think the book is so well done that you'll be okay with the plot holes at the end of it. But if you don't want to read another one, it is going to upset you. Like, you're still gonna like the book. You're still gonna enjoy it. You're probably still gonna like the ending, but it is going to upset you that, oh, now I have to go read another one and probably another one after that. You know, so that's what made me hype. I was so excited the way that he ended the book because it made me want to read the next one so badly that I enjoyed it. But I understand with how different people differ that some people might not understand, and this would actually be the con of the book. So yeah, plot holes, 7. Now I'm going to go to the only other thing that I rated up there as high as his character development. His power/magic systems. Full Metal Alchemist level. Just top tier. Top tier. They gave me the feeling that I was walking through a realistic comic book. I was walking through my life if somehow magic from a comic book leaked into our world just enough. The magic system and the rules were so well done. I could visually picture every movement that they were taking while doing the fight scenes or using the magic system, and I didn't have any doubt of what the next few steps might be based on how I understood how the rules work. That to me is phenomenal. I actually, you know what? I'm going to take back the Full Metal Alchemist. Hunter x Hunter. The power system in Mistborn is on the level of Nen. And how fully developed it is to where you have no doubt that I have no doubt Sanderson had the end of every fight scene planned in his head when he started the beginning of that fight scene. Because he understands how the magic system works so well. The counters and the attacks and the defensive usage of everything, it just flows together so well. It just flows together so well. And throughout the story, he keeps the mystery of how certain people are so strong while trickling those answers to you the whole entire time in a manner that you're just like, oh, that totally makes sense. I'm not even disappointed in that answer. oh, again, that totally makes sense. I'm not even disappointed in that answer. To where by the time he's wrapping it all together into one system by the end of the first book, you knew how that was going to kind of be wrapped. And that's magic to me. That is art. His ability to do that for me was just art. With that being said, I will go to the ending. And the ending is probably going to be the only spoilerish part. So if you don't want any big spoilers, I will try to avoid them. But I'm not going to make any promises. The ending. Okay, I will start with the ending by saying he layers in something at the beginning of each chapter that allowed me to predict the ending about 2 or 3 chapters early, which was a godsend to me. It was so well done, and it was probably one of my favorite parts of the book. I could see some people it being such a minor detail that they even kind of skip these little entries. But they were one of my favorite parts of the book, and it allowed me to predict the ending of the book. And then whenever the ending paid off the way that I predicted, I literally fist pumped in the air in my house, yelling, "Yes!" And then, it was incredible. It was like I was watching the Super Bowl and my team just got the final touchdown with 3 seconds left. You know, it was just incredible the way that he pieced together the final few chapters. Just incredible. And if you were looking for a trilogy and you wanted to know that it led into another book, the plot holes that are left in this that lead you into the next book, my man killed it. That is what I will say. My man killed it. Oh my God, oh my God, and just the wrap up of Ven's story, at least in the first segment of her story, at the end of this book, and how she's developed and how she's kind of like taken her place. I don't know. It was just such a good ending to me. Such a good ending to me that I gave it an 8, because the ending to me was a 9. But like I said earlier, if you are going to be so disappointed by the plot holes, I can understand why you would rate this a 7. But it is still so good, I don't think you would drop it below a 7. Even if you were disappointed in the plot holes and you were upset that you had to read a trilogy, or if you bought this whenever it first was released and you were upset that you had to wait until he had written the other 2 in order to get your answers, I still think you would give it a 7, because it is that well done. Yeah. Mistborn, The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. The first of the trilogy and the first book into my adventure through the Cosmere was phenomenal. With that being said, my next review will not be on the second book of the trilogy. Like I said, I had already made a list, so I promised myself I would read the Age of Misrule. This review will be, there it goes. This book review will be out on my page in probably about a week or 2. I'm going to finish it this weekend. I will start taking notes and rereading through some chapters next week, and then next week I'll start on the video, and then I'll post it up for you guys. so far, it feels like if you're a Doctor Who fan, you're gonna like his trilogy. I'm already pretty committed to buying the next two and reading this trilogy. I hear there's actually 9 books in the series, but I hear each one is kind of like a trilogy in itself as far as the timeline goes, but I do not know yet. So we will have to see. All right, well, I do want to say thank you guys for joining me today. It's been fun and exciting. I can't wait to read some more books and share them with you guys, and I hope you guys pick this book up. Give Brandon Sanderson a chance. Even if it's the first book you've read since you had to read books in school, I think you will fly through it because, like I said, I think that's one of the strengths of his simple writing that people say. I could give this to my 11-year-old. It might take her a little bit. She would be able to read this and comprehend everything. That to me is a pro. I don't care what other people's opinions are. I mean, I do, but I don't. So, yeah. I don't mind the simple writing. I think it's a plus. With that being said, I've changed my mind. Overall, I give the book an 8. Yep. I give the book an 8. Mainly because of the plot holes. I will give you guys that. If you do not like plot holes, you will not be able to get past the point. The one spoiler that I will give you is you go into the end of this book and you're just like, what the fuck are the mists from? Where do they come from? Alright, you guys have a wonderful day. I'll see you guys next time.